pay attention, I guess, to the details that go on behind the scenes. So I want to give a salute to our staff that make the work and effort behind the scenes happen so that our residents have good drinking water quality in all of our systems that we have throughout North Perth. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. I think you spoke well on behalf of council in expressing appreciation to staff on this matter. Anyone else wishing to make an extraction from the consent agenda before we consider the resolution? All right, I have a resolution as follows: consent items 7.1 to 7.22, including the DWQMS Management Review and the DWQMS Infrastructure Review Report, be received for information, and the minutes of the March 24th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call from Councillor Nordholm? Thank you. Councillor Johnston will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Manual vote for Councillor Duncan in favor. And that is carried. Thank you very much. This time it's proposed that we move on to agenda item number 8. At this time, we have no delegations to council tonight. We're also spared of public meetings this evening, so we won't have a recess for that purpose, which allows us to move down to item 9 on our agenda. First, let's consider a few items from the Development and Protective Services Department as item 9.1 on our agenda. As item 9.1.1, council is provided with a report from the Planning Department pertaining to consent to sever a residential lot from a farm parcel on the Elma Ward, known municipally as 5015, line 71. County of Perth planner Haley Halama, I hope I'm close, who works with the County Planning Department on North Perth files, or at least on this file, is with us to walk through the severance proposal. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Haley Hullema, and I am the planner for the consent application B06-25 for surplus farm dwelling severance located at 5205 line 71 in the municipality of North Perth. The subject application proposes to sever a surplus farm dwelling residence that will result in a farm consolidation. The consolidated farm operation is owned by Swiss Farms Inc. and is located at 6449 line 75 in the municipality of North Perth. The applicants are requesting a severed portion of land with an area of approximately 29.3 hectares and approximate lot frontage of 506 meters on line 71. The severed lands are proposed to be vacant. The lands to be retained are approximately 1 hectare, an area with an approximate lot frontage of 98 meters on line 71. The retained lands will contain a single detached dwelling, a drive shed, and a private well and septic. A condition of the consent has been included that will impose restrictions on future permitted uses of the severed and retained lots through adoption of a required zoning bylaw amendment. The condition requiring a ZBA has been recommended to satisfy the requirements of the 2024 PPS and the County of Perth official plan. Additionally, 2 conditions of this consent have been included: to obtain site-specific zoning to recognize the undersized agricultural lot of the severed lands, and to remove the existing silo on the proposed retained lands. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conforms with the County of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent, approval being fulfilled. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Haulama. I'll get close. Sooner or later, I'll figure it
Great.
out. Colleagues, questions, first comments? Anyone? No. Okay. So I have a resolution then for our consideration. As follows: the Municipality of North Perth Council advises the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that Municipality of North Perth supports application file B06-25 submitted by Robert and Karen McCourt for lands described as concession 12N, part lot 31N, part lot 32, Elma Ward, municipally known as 5205, line 71, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated April 7th. Moved by Councillor Blazek. Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kellum. Any questions, discussion, debate at this point on this item? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Councillor Duncan records a manual in favor vote. Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote. Looks like tech updates are happening as we sit here, that's what I'm guessing. And with that, we have the lot is carried. Thank you. Congratulations, I think, on your first presentation to council. You didn't have any questions. You're going to walk away saying this was too easy. All right, thanks. Let's turn next to a report from the Strategic Initiatives Department. In item 9.2.1, staff have continued to lay the groundwork for our Attainable Housing Community Improvement Plan, which we first approved last fall. Tonight, we see drafts of template agreements and the like for scrutiny and possible endorsement. Interim Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Lindsay Klein, has brought forward a report for our consideration, and Ms. Klein has lined up at the podium. She's ready to tell us more. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg, through you to members of council. Under the Attainable Housing Community Improvement Plan and the Development Charges Act, various incentives and or exemptions are available to encourage the development of affordable and attainable housing. Specifically, the Attainable Housing CIP was approved by council in August of 2024. And to date, the municipality has received 2 applications under the CIP, one of which is also qualifies for DC reductions and exemptions, and that's the Listowel Gardens Phase 1 development. In order to facilitate the incentive programs under the CIP and the DC Act, agreement templates have been developed and reviewed by legal to ensure compliance with all applicable program and legislative requirements. 4 templates have been developed: the tax increment equivalency grant agreement, additional dwelling unit agreement, development charges exemption agreement, and the development charges reduction agreement. The agreements were developed through a lens of standardization and consistency. However, there may be instances where a one-size-fits-all approach might not necessarily work. So in these cases, it is recommended that staff are delegated the authority to make administrative and or technical modifications as necessary to ensure a timely and flexible approach in responding to applicants under the relevant incentive programs. So the recommendation before council is to approve the 4 agreement templates as outlined, as well as to delegate authority to applicable municipal staff to execute the agreements and make administrative and or technical modifications as necessary, provided the intent and requirements of the CIP, DC Act, and any applicable municipal policies or bylaws are met. And also for council's awareness, some minor updates to the CIP as well as the 2025 implementation policy will be brought forward to the next council meeting. Happy to take comments or questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Klein. Colleagues, questions or first comments on this matter? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you very much, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Lindsay, for the report. Just one sort of a technical question. I understand on the first page of the agreement. So these agreements will be registered on title of the property, but they will run the length of the term, and then will they be removed? Is that how it would work, or how does the agreement then, once it's run its course, how does it come off the title of the property?
That is a good question. I may ask CAO Snell if he knows the answer to that.
CAO Snell, please.
So both our CIP and the Development Charges Act have timeline requirements. And so the agreement would only be in force for those timelines. And although the agreement wouldn't have to be taken off immediately upon expiration, it would be, I would consider good practice by a property owner to take them off once the agreement has expired or is no longer valued. And we would certainly have to assist with that because we are a signer to the party. But some of those details are still being worked out just because, I mean, some of them are up to 25 years, and it's going to take some effort um, to both police the agreements for the 25 years and to look after any sort of um, um, lack of a better word, downsizing or removal of the programs. Many of us that um, have many of us that started work on these agreements will no longer be with the municipality when they conclude. So it's going to make sure we pass that information on to the next generation of staff.
And just further, Mayor Todd, to this point, given the CEO's now mentioned about the length of some of these agreements, there is a lot of administrative work and effort that's required for this. And I think council certainly understood to a point, and I'm certainly hoping staff understood the amount of work and effort. But like when you have some of these declining uh, uh, reductions that are happening in terms of the taxes that are paid, or increases in taxes that are paid, I guess is what I should say. There's a lot of work and effort from the administrative side to ensure that we have this fairly or implemented properly. So it just and it will take work and effort, but I think this council has latched onto this tool for our communities to ensure that we're taking every opportunity to try to make affordable housing a reality for more people than it currently is. So hats off to our staff and good luck as we move forward on this project. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right. I'll muse that perhaps Councillor Nordham will be here in 25 years. Maybe Councillor Blazek if things go well for both of them. And I'll also muse to your point about the workload that a year from now AI will be taking care of all of this stuff. So there you go. All right, I have a resolution for our consideration as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves and authorizes the use of the following agreement templates to administer the Attainable Housing Community Improvement Plan, CIP, and Development Charges DC incentive programs. One, the Financial Incentives Agreement Tax Increment Equivalency Grant, or TIG. Two, Financial Incentives Agreement Additional Dwelling Unit, or ADU. Three, Development Charges Exemption Agreement for Affordable Rental Units. Four, Development Charges Reduction Agreement for Rental Housing Developments. And that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth delegates authority to the following municipal staff to execute the agreements and make administrative and/or technical modifications to the agreement templates as required, provided such changes are necessary for implementation and remain consistent with the intent and requirements of the Community Improvement Plan, Development Charters Act 1997, and any applicable municipal policies or bylaws. For Attainable Housing CIP agreements, TIG and ADU, the CIP Program Administrator and Treasurer. And for DC agreements, exemption and reduction, the Manager of Development and Protective Services, Fire Chief, and Treasurer. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And we'll ask staff to have Councillor Nordham write this in his day planner for 25 years from now. That's it. All right. Okay, thank you so much for that. As Councillor Rothwell said again, we recognize there's a lot of work that goes into these things. Next up, we have two items from the Manager of Corporate Services and Corporate Services Department, is item 9.3 on our agenda. As item 9.3.1, Council is provided with a report with advice on possible change options for taxi regulations in our community. We have here to present the report that is prepared by both Ms. Klein and Ms. Carter. Ms. Carter is going to take the floor and share with us the essential details and options that we have. Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Through you to members of council. The municipality of North Perth enacted our current taxi bylaw in 2014, with one amendment being made since then in 2021, which increased the fares. The bylaw provides a licensing framework that operators and drivers must follow to obtain a municipal taxi license. Currently, the municipality licenses 2 taxi companies in North Perth. Recently, the municipality has received feedback that ride-sharing companies are operating in North Perth without obtaining municipally issued licenses. Enforcement of these claims has been difficult, and concerns have been raised that local taxi companies are unfairly disadvantaged by having to adhere to the taxi bylaw. Based on this feedback and the ever-changing taxi and vehicle for hire industry, staff have examined various options on what the future of taxi licensing could look like in North Perth. So the first option and staff's recommended option is full deregulation. So under this option, the municipality would repeal the taxi bylaw and fully deregulate taxi licensing. Anyone could enter into the market and operate a taxi or vehicle for hire without requiring a municipally issued license. Taxi companies would set their own prices based on demand and competition, similar to ride sharing services. Regulations set by other levels of government would still need to be complied with, which include but are not limited to vehicle safety, equipment, and insurance requirements. Some benefits of deregulation could include an increase in transportation options for consumers, reducing the inequity between taxi and ride sharing companies, reducing administrative burden on taxi owners and drivers, and reducing staff time and resources. Option 2 would be to maintain status quo. Under this option, no changes would be made to the current bylaw or processes. This option would be problematic because staff do not have the capacity to audit and/or enforce any unlicensed vehicles and drivers. There is also a potential for liability should a licensed or unlicensed taxi get into an accident. And the third option is to amend our current taxi bylaw. So there's an option to amend the current taxi bylaw in various different ways to address some of the concerns noted previously. This option is not recommended as enforcement of the unlicensed vehicles for hire would still be problematic. So as previously mentioned, staff are recommending option 1, and should council choose to proceed with staff recommendation of option 1, staff have proposed in the report a communication plan, and they're also seeking direction from council to refund any licensing fees collected in 2025. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, colleagues, questions, first comments on this? Councillor Bozak.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kisberg. Just curious, do you have any information on what neighboring or similarly sized municipalities are doing on this?
So there are lots of municipalities that don't currently have any taxi companies operating at all. And we've seen an increasing amount of neighboring municipalities deregulate taxi licensing.
Okay. Anyone else with questions or comments about this before we consider the resolution? Is there anyone who strongly objects to considering the staff's proposed resolution, which is option? Okay. So let's continue then. As follows, that the Council of Municipality of North Perth directs staff to proceed with option 1, full deregulation, including repeal of the taxi bylaw and proposed public communication plan, and that staff be directed to refund any licensing fees collected for 2025 taxi licenses. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Johnston, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? All right, I'm not seeing any, so let's have that vote. Councillor Rothwell records a manual in favor vote, and with that, we have all 9 votes accounted for in favor of the resolution. That is carried. Thank you for that work to Ms. Carter and Ms. Klein. We appreciate that. Next up, item 9.3.2 gives council the opportunity to shift the date of its next election, of its next meeting, sorry, in April. Getting so excited about this, to the day following the federal election, so that councillors with interest can vote and celebrate or weep at the results on the evening of the federal election itself. We have a brief report from Clerk Carter, which I'm not sure we need verbal input from you unless there are questions. So colleagues, do you have any questions of staff's recommendation to just shift this down one day? All right, seeing none, let's have a look at the resolution as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth postpones the April 28th council meeting until the following day, Tuesday, April 29th, to avoid conflicting with the federal election. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Andreessen, seconded by Councillor Blazek. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And Councillor Rothwell records a manual in favor vote. And we have the requisite 9, and that is carried. Thank you. All right, for item 10, which is where we're moving next, does any member of council wish to ask for a report from staff or from one of our committees? Not seeing any hands waving at me. For item 11, we have received 2 items of correspondence beyond those already shared in the consent agenda for council's disposition. As item 11.1, we have a request to close some roads to support the 14th annual Teddy Bear Play Day planned for Saturday, June 14th. I am often in attendance, and it's a great fun day for families. The resolution is as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from the North Perth Programs Department to close the following roads from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, June 14th, 2025 for the annual Teddy Bear Play Day event. Royal Street from Elizabeth Street East to Davidson Avenue North, and Derry Street from to Maitland Avenue North, and that North Perth Fire, Public Works, OPP, and Perth County EMS be advised of the event. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Blazek. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And Councillor Rothwell records a manual in favor vote. And with that, that is carried. Thank you. And for item 11.2, we have a request to allow the Atwood United Church to host 1 or more food trucks in the parking lot at Atwood Lions Park on a weekly basis during the month of July. I'm going to turn briefly to Clerk Carter to offer comments on our policy state on this request. Clerk Carter.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. I am not currently aware of any policies that we have in place that would limit or allow for the use of the parking lot for this sort of event.
Okay. Do we anticipate any insurance matters given a favorable vote on approving this?
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, as a requirement of getting a food vehicle license, the applicant is required to provide proof of insurance to the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments on this one? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Todd. One of my questions would be, in the event that the property was used or the building was rented, could there be a potential conflict with traffic and parking in that parking lot? I know the building isn't heavily used, but I just wondered if, in the event that it was, what could be done to support the rental of that building and those who are using it versus the usage of the parking lot for the food trucks. So I just wonder if there was some thought and provision for that in the event something like that were to happen.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn to CAO Snell, I think, on this one.
If it's council's wish to grant the permission for the request, council could add on to it that permission that it's only in times of when the facility is not rented and the renter would take priority over this request. Okay. And we would be able to give the renter notice, obviously, because usually people rent the facility in advance of any events. Okay.
Anyone else with questions or first comments on this one? Okay, Councillor Blazek, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I am struggling a little bit with the idea of on a only when the EMCC isn't being used basis, just because, you know, what if a last minute rental comes in and they've already booked their trucks, and what are the logistics for that? So I completely understand why we might want to uh, control the logistics in some way. Um, I don't think asking them to cancel trucks that they've already booked in the event of a last minute rental is a possibility. So I think that we have to be very careful about how we word such a request or condition.
Okay. Anyone else with comments or thoughts here? I think one of the things that council should consider here is whether we do need to formalize a little bit of policy and sort of add on to our facilities policies to address circumstances like this, because we're kind of working in a vacuum at this point, right? We're not clear about what to do, and so it might be prudent for us to consider adding something to our policy framework. Councillor Duke.
Yes, through you, Mayor, I agree with you. I think we could easily come up with something to add to our policy that will be along the same lines as, say, a rental of the pavilion at the Atwood Park, for instance, if somebody wanted to use the parking lot in the future. That being said, I'd be willing to move that we agree to let them use it this time until we get a policy put into place.
Thank you. Councillor Andreessen.
But one of the things to consider as well is in terms of developing a policy would be the usage of the parking lot, be it by a business versus a charity. In this particular case, it's definitely for charitable purposes. But as we're creating a policy, we might want to think about what if a business were to approach us and try and make money by having an event in the parking lot or food trucks in the parking lot, and what the conditions would be in the event that we do that. I think we need to kind of think ahead in case that were to be requested. Thanks.
Thanks. I actually foresee more requests like this too, actually. I think parking lots, they're sort of the next step away from parks, and there could be more opportunity for local organizations to say, hey, maybe we'd like to do what we want to do in a parking lot as opposed to a park. So I think there are some nuances in here that certainly warrant a little bit of staff recommendation, potentially. Councillor Plazek, you look like not sure.
I look puzzled. Thank you, Serena. We already do this for United Way,
No,
correct?
actually,
Or do we?
no, actually, that's on Warden Upton Grove property.
Oh,
and
okay.
they
So it's
manage
not a
that.
municipal. Okay. Thank you. Apologies.
Yeah. Anyone else with comments or questions? You want to consider the resolution that's before us for approval? Have any concerns about that? We want to amend the resolution to direct staff to bring forward a little bit more policy on circumstances related to parking lots. Having heard what we said, I'm sure that we can. Okay, so let's read the resolution then. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves a request from the Atwood United Church to use the parking lot at the Atwood Lions Park every Wednesday during the month of July from 5 to 8 p.m. for food truck fundraising events, and that staff is directed to address parking lot scenarios. Does that seem all right? um, or as part of policy enhancements. There we go. Moved by Councillor Duncan. I saw that hand raised. Seconded by Councillor Andreessen. Discussion and debate. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Should we also add in there, provided it's not rented on those Wednesday evenings? That if the hall is already rented, somebody could be counting on the parking lot.
I think we've heard reasons, and I'm just trying to play reasonable referee here, why we should be careful of doing that, because the commitments in the marketing have happened, right? that the church will have rented the food trucks or made arrangements. I know that sometimes these have to be made almost a year in advance in some cases, right?
But what I'm saying, if it's already rented now, we're granting permission now.
Okay,
But if we go to our facilities and Jeff says, well, it's rented 2 of those Wednesdays, then to me, those Wednesdays would be considered out. So if it's already rented, not a future rental, but if it's already been booked potentially a year in advance.
let me just make a note here. Okay, so I think I'm inserting the notion into the resolution about granting the approval at this point that says every Wednesday where there is no current EMCC or overlapping EMCC booking. Does that sound all right? Is that sort of your intent, Councillor Johnston?
EMC event that requires the full parking. It could be a small event. It could be
Okay,
a small meeting,
sure.
10 attendees.
Okay, so let's write that in. Good. All right. So that's sort of a conditional amendment. You're okay with that, Councillor Duncan and Councillor Andreessen? Were you the seconder? You're okay with that motionally? All right. So I think we have something of a resolution. I'm not sure if you've sort of caught it up in eScribe or not. It looks like they're saying yes. Any further discussion or debate on this? Sort of interim policy for this case, and then we'll figure out something in the near future. All right, let's have that vote. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues, for collaborating on coming up with a reasonable approach to this. All right. At this point then in our meeting, we turn to the issue of bylaws. Tonight we have 5 bylaws for our consideration. The enabling resolution outlines for each bylaw their number and purpose. Before I read the omnibus resolution that would pass all of these bylaws, does any councillor wish to extract one or more of them for a more fulsome consideration or an individual or recorded vote? Not seeing any hands wave at me, so let's consider the resolution then. The following bylaws are hereby passed. 35-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 147-2022 as amended. 36-2025 being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 166-2014 as amended. That's the taxi bylaw, right? 37-2025 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a letter of agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Transportation. 38-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended, and 39-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson will move. Councillor Rothwell will be our seconder. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. That moves us along to item 13. For item 13.1, does any councillor wish leave to give notice of motion? I'm not seeing any hands wave at me. That brings us to item 14 on our agenda. For item 14, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Colleagues, staff, Councillor Roth.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Members of council, just want to inform council that I was invited to come to the Listowel District Secondary School, their Eco Club, last week, and with the assistance of Mark Hackett, our Environmental Services Manager, he was able to provide a talk on our organic and composting initiatives, which staff prepared a report for consideration just prior to that meeting, which sparked the interest of the Eco Club. So I was able to bring in a sample of our green cone, which is available for sale here for members of the public to use, as well as the food cycler, which staff had in our municipal building here for the last few weeks. There was very much interest from the students in all of the endeavors, as well as just a regular compost, as well as the digester, green cone, the food cycler, as well as the possibility of collection from households in terms of the initiative, which council is going to consider further. In addition, Mark Hackett provided information that staff are working on a survey to be circulated out to the public regarding possibility of organics, compost recycling or collection, as the case may be. That would be coming up soon, as well as a open house date, public information session in June. And lastly, of course, with the upcoming home, I'm going to get it wrong, the home show, I'll call it, outdoor, what is it, lifestyle,
Home and
lifestyle
lifestyle.
show held at the Steve Kerr. So, as I understand from Mr. Hackett's staff will be there, as well as representatives from both Food Cycler, as well as Blue Water Recycling Association regarding their initiative regarding both the green cone, but as well as the possibility of a green bin collection as well. So I was very honored to be asked by the students of the Eco Club, and we had about 20 students, 2 teachers, as well as the principal stop by. So it was my pleasure to have that opportunity. Mr. Mayor, just separately from that, this past weekend I had the opportunity to attend the Ontario Good Roads Association conference in Toronto. This is a very large conference, one of the longest running conferences period of some 332 years. It started in 1894, so very well attended from all across Ontario. Excellent trade show and vendors. Not only myself, but we had other staff that, from North Perth on the public works side that did attend. And unfortunately, I didn't bump into any of them. However, with some 2,000 attendees, I guess it's not a wonder. But clearly, across the board, there was municipal staff and councillors, as well as the various speakers, continued to raise the issues of concern regarding tariffs and President Trump in particular and his desire to impose tariffs across the board, and that will have impact across the board for all public works activities and road building activities, including increase in the price of large equipment, much of which is manufactured in the United States. Nevertheless, it was an excellent conference, and if members of council want to consider another opportunity to go to a conference next year's, will still be at the Royal York, and God willing, we'll be able to go forward and do municipal business in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Anyone else with announcements? I have 2. First, colleagues, this is Public Health Week in Ontario, and we should take the opportunity, if we have the chance, we bump into our favorite nursing, dietitian, dental hygiene team, all of whom work with the public health unit, to offer them our appreciation for their deep service in our community. They have certainly risen to what was a very difficult occasion through the pandemic and continue to extend themselves in service of our community in very meaningful ways. So this mayor is saluting the public health team in Perth and Huron counties. My second announcement, there's always a risk when you recognize someone that people think, oh, they're leaving, or oh, they're dying. And we don't want either of those things to be perceived at this time. But I want to bring to Council's attention that not too long ago, the 15th anniversary of CAO Snell's employment passed. And so it's our opportunity tonight to recognize CAO Snell. since 2009. So, we're a few months late, but that's my fault. Chris has held the position of Chief Administrative Officer for the municipality of North Perth, one of the fastest growing communities in Midwestern Ontario, in fact, in all of Ontario. As CAO, Chris is immersed in all areas of the municipal corporation. He is passionate and remains passionate 15 years later about planning and growth, community and economic development, and environment sustainability. He has previous experience as a municipal clerk before stepping into this role and has served in several capacities within the provincial government and social services sector. He is high value in continual professional development and community volunteerism. He has completed the executive diploma in municipal management and holds the designation of certified municipal officer or CMO. He is a director and past chair of the Maitland Conservation Foundation, a member of the governance committee of the Stratford Perth Community Foundation, and is currently the representative for the municipality of North Perth on the Carbon Footprint Initiative. That's the biography part. I can say a few private words, more my relationship with Chris over the last 6.5 years. I think all of us can agree that we have a CAO who is very accessible to this council, to all councillors on an individual basis, and to staff. The culture that has been built in North Perth, we have reason to be very proud of. And that's because it is a high performing culture that places people first. And a lot of that is Chris's continuing, humble, persistent example of how to behave and be in our municipal corporation and in this great endeavor of municipal government. I have taken particular note and appreciation in the last few years that he is nurturing the leaders of this community of the future. And I think all of council should be particularly appreciative for his dedication to that effort. I'm sure we've all noticed there's been a number of retirements of long-standing people who are stalwarts of this community, and Chris has managed that with a great skill and great compassion, actually, in ways that are meaningful to us. He is, I can only say this as I sound like I'm repeating myself, but I want to repeat this. He is a people first CAO, and he has outstanding strategic insight on top of that. So he's got this dual superpower of being people first and helping with strategy in very meaningful ways, helping us to be the progressive community that we want to be. All I can say is, to me, it's been a blessing to work with Chris. And I think to all of us, we feel that he's a blessing to this community. And so we thank you for 15 years, Chris. And I suggest the appropriate response. Uh, Kellum can't resist. That Maple Leaf thing in him is making him say things. All right. Um, so thank you so much, Chris. And colleagues, is a strange axiom, and Councillor Rothwell will know this well. Some of you have been around the table for a while will know this well. That CAOs often are terminated. It's not uncommon in our sector to see them last 2 or 3 or 4 years. This one, he better stay here until he drops. That's sort of my general advice. So again, thank you so much, Chris, for all that you've done. Not inviting you to drop, just in case you were wondering. All right, we have 2 items to be considered in a closed session meeting of council. This item 15 on our agenda. Let me read into the record the resolution to enable that meeting. The council proceeds in camera at 7:53 p.m. to address a matter pertaining to the following: the security of the property of the municipality or local board regarding encampment strategy, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, regarding the Celebrate North Perth Awards. Can I call for a mover on this? Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. All right, let's prepare the chamber, make the changes that we need with regards to our audiovisual arrangements, and invite those who are not invited to stay. It's time to exit the chamber. Are we back? All right, we are returning from our closed session meeting regarding item 16 on our agenda. Council did discuss the matters identified in our enabling resolution for a closed session meeting of council and did give staff direction pertaining to the matters that were considered, the essence of which will remain confidential at this time for the reasons stipulated in our enablement resolution. Council, as a mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what's called the confirmatory bylaw. I'll now read the enabling resolution for our confirmatory bylaw for tonight's meeting as follows: that bylaw 40-2025 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the council of the municipality of North Perth is hereby passed. Moved by Councillor Andreessen, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? All those in favor? I guess actually we're voting online. Let's proceed online. Yeah. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And councillors, that means we have completed the deliberation and taken action on the business that came before us tonight. We can therefore consider adjournment. I have a motion to that effect as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 8:59 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Rothwell and Councillor Richardson, thank you. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Colleagues, we meet again on an unusual night, Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. Until our next meeting, this council is adjourned.